Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles Tabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my name is Charles Tabansi, handle CTABANZ. Also, make sure you follow Dreamerspro on Instagram, same name as the channel, Dreamerspro, and also make sure you check out the Dreamerspro podcast. Well, it looks like we got some beef in these YouTube streets. We got some serious beef. And what I'm liking about all of this is this. You see, generally or traditionally, the way it works in the media is that you have journalists that go with athletes, right? And then there's this kind of back and forth. What you seldom have is journalists call out other journalists and people on TV. You rarely have that. It's like a code of silence. Well, I think we started doing this stuff a few years ago, and we started calling out various people on some of their, on some of the things that they will say as it pertains to sports and other things. And maybe it's because I was never a journalist, so maybe I didn't get the memo that you need to, hey, don't mention this guy's name, don't mention that guy's name. And I said to myself, wait a minute, if I'm here to give you guys my opinion, it can't be that I always disagree with what an athlete says or does, but then if a journalist says something that I disagree with, I'm supposed to just keep quiet and then be silent, and we're all going to just sit down and say, hey, listen, okay, we're not going to talk about ourselves, we're just going to be talking about the athletes. I thought that never made any sense to me. And frankly, I thought, and this is something I used to discuss with Marco, the co-founder of Dreamerspro, I used to say to him, I'm like, man, I wonder we making ourselves, are we turning ourselves into these guys' enemies? He's like, no, you just have your opinion and say what you believe and be ready to back it up when called upon to back it up. So where am I going with all of this? As somebody that's been in the independent space, what I'm noticing is that bigger names that were already established in the industry have started to come into the independent space, and now you have them going at each other. Whether it may be Dan Le Batard and Stephen A. Smith, or Marcellus Wiley going at this person and this person going at that person. And now it seems to be more commonplace. And to me, I just think everybody's keeping it 100. And people are like, to hell with the fact that I know you or I used to know you. I'm going to keep it real, because ultimately, I'm not here to rub you on the back. I'm here to keep it real for my audience. That's ultimately why I'm here. If I'm not going to keep it real with the audience, then what exactly am I doing, right? Where am I going with this? Well, recently, Stephen A. Smith had a back and forth with Marcellus Wiley, and they had their exchange there. And then towards the end of his response, because he said one thing, Marcellus said the other thing, then Stephen A. Smith said another thing, and then they went back. But towards the end of his response, he then took out the time to go at a particular journalist who he refused to put a name on. But based on his description of the person, a lot of people were able to surmise the person he was talking about. And it turns out the person that a lot of us were thinking it was actually put out a rebuttal to some of the things that Stephen A. Smith himself said. And that's really what we want to focus on. We want to get into the comments that Stephen A. Smith initially made. But before we even get into that, this video is brought to you by a brand new sponsor, Factor Meals. If you're like me or anybody that works at Dreamerspro, chances are you're a very, very busy person, especially during the lunchtime when you don't have time to go to the grocery store, pick out fresh ingredients, and come back home and cook healthy, delicious meals. Sometimes we're so busy that you just end up finding yourself making a ham sandwich or something like that, which isn't really ideal. And this is the reason why we are excited to be partnering with Factor Meals. Factor Meals is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. You can choose from up to 35 gourmet meals. Every meal is packed with premium ingredients, crafted by Factor Meals' team of culinary experts and designed by dietitians to ensure that every meal is packed with premium science-backed nutritional quality. Your meals are delivered directly to your door, and all you need to do is heat them up in just under 2 minutes. Then they are ready for you to eat and enjoy. So for example, this week, I think I'm gonna go with the Italian herb chicken. What I love is that under every single meal, you can see if it's a calorie conscious option. For example, this meal I just chose is the dietitian approved calorie smart meal, which is around 550 calories or less per serving, and also a protein plus meal with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. So if you want to give it a try, click the link in the description below or head over to factormeals.com/dreamers50 and use code dreamers50 to get 50% off. And remember, when you try Factor Meals by using the link in the description below, remember that you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So what we want to do is we want to play first what Stephen A. Smith said about this person, and then we're going to continue with the show and then let you know what the person said in response. Take a listen to Stephen A. Smith here.
I got mad love for all of my colleagues. Marcellus Wiley was one of those people. I'm sorry he's gone from ESPN. I'm sorry he's gone from FS1. I hope whatever it is that he's doing, and I'm assuming it's something more than just his podcast because the brother's bright as hell. I wish him nothing but the best. If I saw him, the only thing that I would say to him is, bro, really? That's what we doing now? A black man is scared of the intelligence of a white dude? Really? In the year 2023, we gonna say something like that? Because I can assure you, I ain't scared of nobody. Not when it comes to intellect. You know why I'm not scared? Because either I'm just as smart, if not smarter, or I learn from their intelligence and it makes me more intelligent. So I'm always winning. I'm always winning. Now, there's a lot of people out there that want me to address other names. There's one particular person who will remain nameless, and I will not deny it. I think he's a fat, no-good bastard who I despise to the core. But it doesn't mean that I wish him harm. It just means I know what he is. That is not Marcellus Wiley I'm talking about. It ain't hard to figure out who the hell I'm talking about. But even then, I wish him no harm. Even though he has made a career out of maligning and ridiculing and trying to wish others the worst. I'm where I'm at. That particular individual is where he's at. And I'll leave it at that. And no, I'm not talking about Marcellus Wiley again. No, I'm not talking about my former colleague on First Take. No, I'm not talking about them. They ain't fat bastards who are seeds of the devil. Wishing nothing but black folks harm. But I'll leave that for another day, for when the time is right.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. It was funny enough, when I was listening to that, it was something that was totally unexpected. Because originally I was listening to what he had to say in response to Marcellus Wiley. And then out of nowhere, he just took a shot at this person. And the minute he said it, first of all, the way he said it was hilarious. This fat, you know what, it was the way he said it was just funny. And then a lot of us started like, okay, well, he's talking about this, he's talking about that. And then we obviously ultimately were quickly able to understand the person he was talking about. And it seems like the person himself that he was referring to actually figured out. And that person was Jason Whitlock. And apparently after Jason Whitlock caught a whiff of what Stephen A. Smith had to say about him, he took to his own show to basically, show Fearless, to basically respond to Stephen A. Smith and basically break down where he thinks Stephen A. Smith is coming from. And he also believes that Stephen A. Smith can't be as honest as he wants to be because he is beholden to certain groups. So what we want to do is we want to play some of the things that Jason Whitlock had to say in response to Stephen A. Smith. He did a long segment, about a 27-minute segment, if I'm not mistaken. So we're only going to play a few minutes of it, and then we'll come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Jason Whitlock had to say here.
All right, so that's Stephen A. And this is where the problem Stephen A. Smith has, and the problem many people involved in corporate media, many people that are addicted to social media, this is the problem they have. They can't be honest. They can't say what they really, really believe. And so they go the passive aggressive route. They go a very dishonest route, and they're upset with me. And this has been an issue for me throughout my entire career, because throughout my entire career, no matter where I'm at, Kansas City Star, ESPN, Fox Sports, America Online, AOL Sports, when that was around, when I did sports talk radio. I've always been, and it's not because I'm a better person than anybody else. It's a quirk in my personality. It comes from the way that I was raised and my upbringing. I'm a weird person in terms of I've never cared what the world thinks about me. And a lot of that has to do with seeds that were planted in me, again, at 25th Street Baptist Church, where I grew up, and my grandmother, my beloved Kennedy. But I didn't even recognize it then that that's what it was about me. It wasn't until much later in life that I figured out, like, those seeds took root in me and changed my personality and rigged my personality in a way that I'm not concerned with what the world thinks about me. I'm not courting that kind of popularity. I'm not trying to, because I'm a failure in a lot of ways. A lot. Look at my gluttony. Look at the decisions that I've talked to you guys about, I've made in my personal life. Stupid things, blessings God sent me that I threw away, took for granted, exploited, mistreated, abused, just didn't take the proper care of gifts that God sent me for my personal life. So I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but there is certain strengths that I have and things that I have done right. And one of them is I don't care about what the world thinks of me. And particularly now in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I'm out here performing for an audience of one, and that is God.
So you heard what Jason Whitlock had to say. Now, here are my thoughts on this, and I have a lot. I think the frustration that Stephen A. Smith felt or feels towards Jason Whitlock is on two layers. The first layer has to do with, obviously, the relationship that they had and maybe some personal dealings that they had together. And I think on a macro level, he's reacting to Whitlock the same way I did, and many others. Here's the fact of the matter. Jason Whitlock was someone that I used to watch from afar, not like passively. I didn't watch him, I didn't follow him. If he had an interesting segment come up on his show, I would watch him. I saw him on FS1 when he was on the show Speak for Yourself. So I go that far back, right? And historically, Jason Whitlock seems to be a person that is outspoken. He is not afraid to go against the grain. He's going to tell you what he thinks, even if it's controversial. And he's going to take positions that most blacks would view as anti-black, if we're just keeping it 100, right? But I never paid too much attention to him when he used to do it in the past. I started to pay more attention to Jason Whitlock recently when Deion Sanders really started to gain a lot of headway in the media because of his Colorado football team, who just recently suffered an absolutely ridiculous loss. Funny enough, yesterday I was getting ready to go to bed and I saw a little bit of the game, and I saw they were up I think 27-0. And I'm like, well, no need to sit up here and watch the rest of this. As late as hell, I'm going to bed. I'm tired. Just to wake up and and to see the debacle that took place when I went. I couldn't even believe it. And I was listening to Coach Prime talk about it this morning, and he seemed to be beside himself at what took place yesterday on that football. He genuinely seemed shocked. I didn't say surprised. He was shocked at what happened. And they had a still of his image at the half when he was cheesing it up, and then there was another image of him after the game, and he looked dead serious. So, Deion, I feel your pain. But anyway, I started to follow Deion Sanders when his team started making a lot of noise, like a lot of people. And a lot of people were happy and hyped for what Deion Sanders was doing. But one person that was constantly looking for ways to tear Deion down was Jason Whitlock. And I felt like a lot of his criticisms were out of bounds. He was taking a lot of personal shots at him. He was talking about his masculinity. comparing him to a female TikToker. He was questioning his religious faith, his religious background. He was questioning him as a father, as someone that doesn't even have kids, to question another person about having kids. To me, is just, I mean, you can't get any lower than that, right? And the thing that ultimately sent me over the edge was this. I noticed that almost every single thing that Jason was talking about always had this negative slant towards blacks. It was always black this, black that, black this, black. At first, I would kind of ingest his information passively, but then I'm like, okay, this black thing, and this black thing. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, hold on, what is this obsession with always being this hypercritical about blacks? Number one. Number two, you yourself are black. So I don't see this big kick you're getting out of constantly criticizing blacks. Now, is it important for various groups to hold themselves accountable? 100%. Were some of the points that Jason Whitlock were making, were they valid? 100%. But when it seems like that is your only angle, where you only have negative things to say about a particular group, and in this case, your group, it makes some people begin to wonder, bro, what is the problem? Why do you get such a kick out of tearing down blacks? What is this fetish that you have with tearing down blacks? Now, Jason Whitlock will say, no, the reason I'm doing it is because I want to see us do better. My brother, if you feel like the way you're going to extract results out of people is to constantly criticize them, good luck. Good luck. If you feel you're going to make your kids do better by constantly tearing them down and pointing out whenever they do wrong, you're going to have kids that are going to be rebellious, and very soon they're going to tune you out. The better way to do it is, number one, to correct them when they're wrong, but most importantly, congratulate them when they're right publicly. And for whatever reason, it seemed like Jason found it difficult to do that. And I think that's what Stephen A. Smith was saying, where he's like, he's always wishing on people's downfall. That's what he's talking about. Jason Whitlock, if you're going to keep it 100 with yourself, if you go through the library of content that you have that is centered on blacks, 90% of what you're saying is negative. And to me, the problem is it's like you seem predisposed to look for the negative, number one. And number two, why are you doing this? Who are you doing to, why are you, who are you trying to pacify by doing all of this? That's the part I don't understand. And for him to now say, I'm doing this for God, that's the part that blows my mind. Where did God say to stand up in front of your pulpit and to be tearing down your race every single opportunity? First of all, this stuff that you're doing for God, where did God mention any of this? Where did he mention any of this? You sat up there and said, you have your flaws as a human being, but yet you're sitting up there tearing down the flaws of another person. And to be quite honest with you, I don't see any sins that Deion Sanders is committing. What sins specifically are you speaking to? Okay, he's loud, he likes to show off. Where is that a sin? Where is that a sin? And is that all that the man does? Is that the only thing that he represents? Is he not a good parent? Does that not stand for anything? Is he not a respectful person? Does that not stand for anything? Why are you so bothered that this guy is so what does it have to do with you? What is it taking away from you? Well, he needs to behave like this. Is there one way a black man is supposed to behave? Are black men one monolith? Do we all move in unison? Don't we all have different behaviors? Don't we all have different backgrounds? And for you to be acting like as if you're shocked, Deion Sanders has always been like this. It's not no new act. And the part that killed me was you had all of this self-righteous indignation about what's virtuous and pious and all of that stuff. And meanwhile, you had Brett Favre sitting on your show and you was rubbing his feet on your couch while he was talking to you. You had no issue with him. Someone accused of stealing from the poor. I don't know how you get any lower than that. And you seem to find no issue with him. Someone that was involved in a legal matter, well, not him, but people that were annexed to him, people that are going to go to jail. You saw no issue with him. You were up there twerking it up with him. But then when it comes to Deion Sanders, you got an issue with him. This is where you lose people, because people are looking at the imbalance and saying, bro, what's going on here? Now, personally, I believe that Jason Whitlock is doing this to make some whites happy. because there's some whites that don't even fall for this nonsense nor follow him. And why you would follow a particular person of any race going at any other race to make you feel good about yourself, that says a lot about you anyway, as it pertains to any group. So to me, man, I think Stephen A. Smith, I mean, personally, I think that if they continue to go back and forth, Stephen A. Smith will go back at him. Because the way the sports media landscape is shaping up right now, the old rules are going out the window. This thing is evolving faster than you think. And I can't wait to see where this thing goes. So these are my thoughts. So what I want to know from you guys, number one, what do you think about what Stephen A. Smith had to say? Number two, what do you think about the rebuttal that Jason Whitlock put forward? And number three, what do you think about the analysis that we put forward here today? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.